I'm going to take the same level of energy and the passion that I have for business and teaching people confidence and getting out of their own way and helping them build businesses. That's what I'm here for. Everybody listening's got a different purpose and a different way to impact the people on a global scale, but the fear is holding you back.
Hey, everybody, like what you see, Luxe Life with Candice Bar, or any of the Luxe Media Studios shows, make sure you subscribe and click the like below. Hey, everybody, welcome to Luxe Life. I'm your host, Candice Bar, and we are so excited for today's show. We have Tony Whatley on with us. Welcome, Tony.
Thank you, Candice. This is going to be a fun conversation. I can already tell.
Definitely. I'm so excited to have you because we've been connected on Facebook for some time now, but we never got a chance to talk. And I know you're quite the entrepreneur.
Yeah, the Book of Faces. It's a good way to connect a lot of people in this world, isn't it?
Yes. And I liked you because, you talk a lot about entrepreneurship on your page and kind of all the stuff and coaches and potential fake stuff. And then I think you're also super hilarious as well.
Yeah, I have a lot of fun with it because there's a reason I put a lot of this humor content out there. One, I did improv school for over a year to kind of get more involved in that scene, but also it's to call out the BS that we see in this industry. And the benefit of that is one, I'm educating people to look for these kind of things. And
Mhm.
two is that you and I don't know all the bad players in this industry. And so when you put out that content to kind of expose people and the actions and the things that they do, it has a really good way of pushing those people away from you because I don't want to sit at that table with a circle of liars. Like I'm good at just pushing them away. I want them to feel uncomfortable around me. And so the humor content is a good way of doing that.
I love that because, as you and I both know, in that particular industry, there's a lot of talk.
Yeah.
It's a lot of, like you said, it's a lot of BS.
Hmm.
And people who don't know or who are not seasoned, they don't know what they don't know.
They
And a
don't.
lot of people will fall for a lot of things.
Yeah, they take advantage of people in really bad situations because, when we're talking about business or starting things or scaling, it's, people that want to make a better income. They want to make a better life for themselves. They want a taste of the financial freedom that they hear about. And when they see someone that's especially their peer group, they're young and they're like, I'm making $100,000 a month. And they think that
Yeah.
they have the answers and they go buy a 997 course and they think that it's going to work out for them. They found out that, they didn't really achieve anything in their lives before they became that coach.
Right. So, I want everyone to know a little bit of background about you. I know you're quite the entrepreneur, like I said. Let everyone know you, what you do, your kind of your background to what brought you to where you are today.
Yeah, I guess the interesting thing about my career is that I essentially led a dual purpose career in two different industries at the same time. And so my book is called Side Hustle Millionaire because I was working in corporate as an engineer in project management, oil and gas industry.
Mm,
But I'm a car guy and I love cars. So I built businesses in the automotive performance industry.
mm,
And I had really kept those two groups and the networks completely separate, even at the point I had two LinkedIn accounts. One was automotive and one was oil and gas.
okay.
And so even though there was no conflict of interest between the two, I just didn't see the need for them to be combined. And so I operated different businesses in spare time. And so in the midst of that, I built multiple seven-figure businesses while I had a full-time career because of the processes and the systems and the people that I was able to implement, things I was learning from corporate leadership that I was able to apply to small business ownership. So
Mm,
I had processes and I had systems and I had people in place to manage these business, which built millions of dollars. I sold a company for millions of dollars in 5 years because I didn't have to be the operator. I got to enjoy that platform as a consumer. So I had
mm.
really good feedback from a consumer standpoint to be able to improve the product and the service over and over and over and just collect the royalties from building the business.
Very smart. Doing in that process, I love the entrepreneurial journey because we get to interview a lot of cool people, but I like entrepreneurs specifically because it's always a journey and there's always a story and there's a lot of ups and downs. And so through building through that journey, can you share with us a few, I like to call them learning lessons
Mm.
that you learned along the way, that helped you get to where you are today?
I think I get the drive and the work ethic from watching my parents struggle so much as a
Mhm.
child. My mom's a Japanese immigrant, and when she came over,
Wow.
she worked in the public school systems as a cafeteria worker her entire career. My dad was a Vietnam vet, U.S. Marine, and after the military, he worked in the chemical refineries, blue collar work, hard work his entire career. So the I guess the thought around money was always we didn't have enough of it. So I saw a lot of arguments and stress and a lot of situational things that realized that I initially associated money with like a negative thing because it was always
Mm,
the stress thing in my childhood. And so in order for me to go buy the video games and the skateboards and the BMX bikes as a kid, I had to be really resourceful and go figure out how to make it out because my parents weren't going to give me any, but they always supported me figuring it out.
right.
And all I knew how to do was work extra jobs and do the hard work and do what it takes. And, the hustle, that was kind of like my entire life for most of my first 20 years when you think about that. And, when I think about, I wasn't happy where I was, I didn't have the financial level that I would like to achieve. So for me, that just meant going to pick up a second job or a third job
Mhm,
in some situations. And
mhm.
so the hustle was always there. I didn't understand scaling. I didn't understand how to build things to sell. Like most people, we hand build widgets. Our first business, we'll sit at the kitchen table and make things and try to sell those. And you realize that there's not a lot of market for those things, or maybe it take a lot of time to build something. And
Mhm.
so things didn't really scale. So it starts to replace maybe the waiter job I was doing in the evenings after I got home from my normal job. But business to me was entrepreneurship was I learned as I went. And to give you guys a backstory, I built a online automotive community, which became the number one in its niche. So the General Motors, anything Corvette, Camaro, all the big names, General Motors, Cadillac. I built the number one community online for that. And it started with just $350. I didn't have a lot of money. That was a software license and a first month of server rental. I knew that if I could create articles and how to articles on how to make your car go faster and how to make it
Mm,
look better, how to be a better driver, that people would just come and hang out. This was 2001, so it was really a long time ago when you think about the early age of information on the
right,
internet.
right.
But you start to attract advertising, you start to attract eyeballs, you start to attract bigger advertising, and eventually Chevrolet and Cadillac and these big names and the manufacturers and performance shops and racetracks, all of them around the country were advertising on my website, which is why it was able to cash flow to $1 million type business. So
Mm,
you know, I didn't understand all this stuff going through it. I didn't have the resources. I was reading magazines like Entrepreneur. I was reading books like back then, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and just trying to
yes,
figure things out. There wasn't a whole
yes,
lot, right? And back then, the personal development side in a bookstore was called self-help.
yes.
And
And
there wasn't
it was
entrepreneurship in there, you
totally
know?
that the word entrepreneur is a newer word.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, back then we called it business owners, and
Yes.
I'm 51 for reference. So when I was younger and we met someone and we go, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" And they go, I'm a business owner." We kind of felt sorry for them at the time because not everybody's rich. Like just because you own a business don't mean you're rich. Like now we see
Yes.
on social media that we think everybody's entrepreneur, everybody's rich. It's not the case.
Right. Right.
Very few business owners ever even make six figures, 100,000 a year. Very few.
Right.
And so we're misled in this fantasy world that we see on Instagram and the social media and Facebook. And back then, if you're a business owner, it was almost like we felt sorry for you, like you weren't hireable, like, oh, you're not a really good employee, because we didn't know any better, right?
Right.
But now it's all glorified and stuff, like you said.
Yep. Now it's all hyped up.
It's all hyped up. Now it's like being a celebrity now to be an
Yes.
entrepreneur. Yeah.
I want to get, I want to ask you this particularly, with the entrepreneur space, there is a lot of hype.
Hmm.
Um, and there's a lot of speakers and coaches that are they're yelling affirmations at you and not really talking to you. What are your thoughts on that type of teaching?
Well, I think that it gets a lot of attention because I think maybe people are missing some kind of an authority role in their childhood. Maybe they're single
Mm,
parent or their father wasn't present or they didn't have that authority. And you heard I had a military sergeant as a dad, so I'm very
yeah.
thankful for my dad being that guy that kept me in line. And when I see these successful men going to these boot camp things and they're getting screamed at in the face and like having to crawl through the mud and like be humiliated and stuff. It's like I'm glad I had like 18 years of that with my dad. I didn't have to go pay $20,000 for
Right.
some guru to scream at my face as an adult, right? And so I think that it gets a lot of attention and it fills a void that people are missing in their lives,
Mm,
but it's not really constructive, you know,
yeah,
because although it gets your attention and it gets your adrenaline going and it's kind of exciting, at the end of the day, you have to ask, what is the net value of that? Is that really moving me forward, or is it just someone that's taking money out of my pocket that's going to leave me in
right.
the same situation? And, you know, you got to look past the hype and the people with the big fancy marketing. Use Google, guys. Like if people are telling you they're successful, there should be evidence of them being successful in their lives. And the internet doesn't lie. And let's be real, if you have done anything substantial, it's out there on the internet. The
Mm-hmm.
history just gets recorded no matter what. So there's,
Yep.
you know, breadcrumbs and trails of all these different pieces of evidence in their life. And, you know, if they don't have that, you should also question that. Like if there's no evidence at all, if it doesn't exist, then how are you really supposed to validate it? How are you supposed to believe that? So do some due diligence, do your research, go down the rabbit hole, go creep their Facebook and their socials. Like you should do that before you go spend thousands of dollars with somebody
Also, too,
because
like
yeah,
to go off of your point, like ask for like some references, talk to
for
people who
sure.
you know that worked with them, and like what was their experience.
Yeah, and to add to that, not just the current clients, but ask if you can have some conversations with former clients. That's the
Yes.
key.
Also, too, to go off of that, how many former clients have re-signed for other
Oh, boom,
things?
boom. You know, I was actually talking to one of my clients today and I made a joke. I'll post this probably maybe in a couple of weeks. I'm about to go do some traveling, but you know, the Facebook marked safe post has like the little blue flag. It says, you
Yes.
know, marked safe from this. I'm going to create one that says, my clients are marked safe from me ever blocking or unfriending them because I've never done it. I've got clients that have been working with, you know, 20 years. They come back, repeat
Wow.
business for over 20 years.
Yeah.
I've helped so many people start businesses that used to be staff members of mine, and they become
Wow.
really successful at it. And they come back to me to get regrouped, or they want to do something. They want to sell their company, maybe, you know, and you don't get the 10-year plus type repeat business if you treat people the wrong way. And
Right.
so I've never had to block a former client. I've never had to unfriend a former client. And some people are very transactional in that space. And as soon as you stop renewing your subscription with them, they'll block you and they'll unfriend you. And it just blows my mind that they're in the personal development space.
Right. Mm-hmm. What can you, so now you are clearly coaching people and helping people scale and sell their businesses, correct?
Correct. That's more of the emphasis. Although I do have the offerings for, you know, people that want to start and have the ideation phase of their business. That's what the book is for. That's what the podcast is for.
Mm,
The mastermind groups are usually the six-figure type entrepreneurs that are still trying to figure out processes and systems and getting to that seven-figure mark and a little bit into that. My one-on-one clients generally now are the 5 million plus revenue type
mhm,
operators. 5 to 50 million is kind of that range, you know, based on my current client portfolio.
mhm,
And those people have figured out the money situation, but what most people don't realize as a personal coach, as a performance coach, most of our conversations are not around their business at that level. It's around them as an individual. So
mhm.
they've got some kind of imbalance in their lives. Maybe they've got the money in the bank account, but they're struggling with their fitness. They're struggling with their family, their relationships, their faith. They're not really understanding how to get the free time. They can't take vacations. Guys, there's a lot of multimillionaires out there that have very successful companies that are deathly afraid to take a 2-week vacation because they think the entire thing's going to implode. So
Yes.
that's a mental issue, and that's a
Mhm.
issue that we need to work around and giving them some confidence and believing in their team and trusting other people to do the stuff for them. So I'd say that 75% of my conversations at that level are around them as an individual once we get their profits and the company growing the right way.
Tony, being an entrepreneur, a successful entrepreneur, as clearly you are, what has been some transformative things for you going through your entrepreneurial journey and your process that, when you started, you didn't necessarily have those tools or
Mhm.
that emotional intelligence? Because it's a lot. You learn a lot while you go through it all that you have now, that you're proud of yourself that you have those tools now.
Believing Before Seeing, a new bestseller by Candice Bar. Order your copy today.
You know, a lot of things based in successful businesses also stemmed in common sense. Like we hear this, but there's a lot of things that people don't understand, or maybe they haven't had that exposure. And I didn't have that entrepreneurship background. So I always recommend people to go start something. Just start anything, whatever you're interested in, whatever you have a curiosity in, even if it's a skill set or knowledge that you don't currently have, but you're willing to invest in that because you're curious about it, or you want to know more about that industry or that product or that service. Go do that. Scratch that itch,
Yeah.
because the best entrepreneurs are the ones who jump in and figure it out as they go. There's too many people out there listening to these podcasts, reading all the books, going to all these seminars, getting the expensive selfies with the event name tag still on their neck. And they're investing all the money in the wrong places, but they're not taking the action. And they'll take books and books of notes. They'll fill out notepads and they go to these conventions and they won't even read them, but they won't take any actions on them. Because as you're going through that, or maybe you're listening to this show right now, you're nodding your head and you go, oh, this is some great information. You're writing it down, but what are you going to do with it? That's what matters. So the best entrepreneurs do something. They start the business.
Just do it.
Just do it.
Just do it.
You're going to get punched in the face. You're going to fall down once in a while. You're going to make some mistakes. You're going to waste some time. You're going to lose some money. You're going to lose some friends. You're going to think some people that were supporters aren't really your supporters. And at the midst of this is how you fortify and become a better entrepreneur, because these are all life lessons. You either win or you learn, right? And so you don't really learn by reading books. And a lot of these books are written from a very optimistic and happy, joy perspective. And they don't prepare you for when you do get punched in the face, or people betray you, or people try to, sabotage your business. These are things that you have to go through, but then you learn, and you learn to defend yourself. You learn to get ahead of that. You start to also identify the cues and the things that you should observe around the industry or the people around you or the employees that give you clues on, this is what happened last time when I saw that kind of evidence. And so the best entrepreneurs have to learn. They have to go through these things.
I agree with you. I mean, you can only learn through action. That's the real way to learn, is through action.
That's it.
And I am so on board with you with the, I call them serial event goers. You'll see them at every event, all the things with the tags, with the stuff, with the taking pictures with the people. And my question is, what in their business has changed from 5 years ago when I saw you doing the same stuff? Your business is still at the same place. So what is the point of doing all of these things if nothing has changed?
You nailed it. And also with the coaching groups, there's some groups, my group gets compared to a lot of the big groups now. I don't think that it's a good idea to go from group to group to group. Pick one from a person that you've done the due diligence on, the people that you want to learn from. And just stay loyal to that group, and you'll get far more benefits, because it's just like you said, Candice, but people will go to a group and they don't really go all in. They don't do the networking properly. They don't take the notes. They don't apply anything. And they go, oh, this group's just not for me. So maybe this other group over here has got all my answers. And so they go hop groups. And you see these group hoppers and event hoppers. And it's unfortunate because, like you said, year after year, they're in the exact same financial situation. They're not achieving anything. You don't see them stacking any wins. They're not doing anything except going to these events. And, my mentor, Andy Frisella, will call them, success zombies. They're like zombies that just kind of walk around. And I added to that. I said, okay, zombies eat brains, right? So these people are literally walking around like brains, because they're consuming information from other people. They're eating brains.
It's success zombies. I love it. It's exactly. And then let's go to the networking side of it, which is my side of it. It's like the bad networking. They're like, oh, the networking doesn't work. No, networking works. You're just doing it wrong.
Yes. Yes. I actually made an AI generated meme of the first time someone would go to a Chamber of Commerce meeting. And that one got a lot of laughs because it's kind of the sleazy guy coming up and acting all creepy. And, I get that. Okay. Like, I'm not downing on the people that love their Chamber of Commerce meetings, but I live in a pretty affluent area in the Houston area in the Woodlands. And I get invited to go to those chamber meetings, and a lot of people, like, there's some good people there. I'm not saying that's a whole bad thing, but let's be real here for a minute. A lot of these Chamber of Commerce meetings are just drunk fests, happy hours that are disguised as business networking. Like you guys just want to go out, have a few drinks. I get it. You tell some lies, do some stupid things, trade 100 business cards, thinking that these people are going to refer you business. And so you'll come home with 100 new business cards and 0 references.
Yeah. I saw that and I was laughing hilarious. Like, I did something that's so hysterical. Chamber of Sadness. Because it doesn't matter if you're in Houston, Los Angeles,
Yeah.
it does not matter. Anyone who talks to me about a chamber, I do high net worth networking.
Mhm.
So low level networking for anyone. I don't care if you're starting out in business or where are you at in business. Chambers are not good. It's a bunch of, I call it, it's bottom feeders, and
Yeah.
it's a lot of neediness and takers. It's not um, any business doing well. No one's doing that.
Mhm.
And it's also not reciprocal business. It's not, you're right. It's really just an excuse to drink with some friends and call it a business write-off.
It's almost like people graduated high school, but they still needed their clique,
Oh, 1,000,000%.
you know?
1,000,000%. Yes.
Yeah, I
I,
agree. It's the lowest level of networking. And I'm not
yes.
saying that these are bad people. I'm just saying the levels. If we're talking levels in
Yes.
life, it's just the lowest level. It's not the lowest negative level. It's just low.
It's
It's
low. It's
small
a low
talk.
vibe. It's low level. And
Small
if
talk.
you want to talk about networking not working, that's a place where it's not going to work
Yeah.
because that's not the right circle. That's not the right group. It's not the people that's not the movers and shakers. It's not.
When you go to a chamber meeting, the conversations are usually very small talk oriented about, hey, so how are the kids doing in soccer this year? And oh, did you
Yes.
see that the high school team is going to the state championship? And oh, how about those Houston Astros? It's very low level stuff that drives me nuts at any normal table. I'll
Yes. Totally.
tolerate that from family, like holidays, but I don't want to be at those tables. I really don't want to small talk with people. And that's why you and I on this podcast, we're talking about business and how to scale and mindset and things like that. That's the conversations you want to have. And the right networks have those kind of conversations. So if you're listening to this and you go, hey, I'm not having a lot of those conversations, it's because the people you select to be around you are not having those conversations. There's different
Yes.
people, different levels.
I always say, to go off this point, and then we can move on. To go on this point is, you get when you're flying, you usually fly first class or business or higher class, not for the seat. The seat's pretty much the same.
Yeah.
You fly a different class for different conversations around you. I don't want to hear how you save 5 cents on tuna fish. I have no interest in that. I want to overhear conversations on someone just sold their company for 50 million, or I want to hear bigger conversation around me always. That's why you buy a higher ticket.
The funny thing, I heard this, I can't remember, I won't attribute to the source of this, but it was a comical thing, like you talk about different levels. When you think about nicer neighborhoods,
Mm,
think about the reality of nicer neighborhoods and why they exist.
mm,
It means that those people actually, even if you live in a nicer neighborhood like myself, there's always going to be nicer neighborhoods, right? So wherever
mm.
you are in the stack up, it's relative. The nicer neighborhood than yours are just people who are willing to pay more to not have you as their neighbor, regardless of where you're at, you know?
Yes, very true. I wanted to ask, when you first made your first, I think it's a million or multi-million, I
Mhm.
think when you said you sold your first company
Yeah.
and you had, a good amount of money,
Mhm.
what was something that you were able to get yourself that you always wanted, that you maybe thought was out of reach, that you got for yourself and you took a moment, you were proud of yourself?
Yeah. Actually, there's a good mindset lesson around money wrapped into this story. So I'm a car guy
Mm,
and I'm big on visualization and as woo-woo as that sounds, I've always visualized. That's something my Japanese mother taught me. Like I had vision boards as a kid and we called
yeah.
them dream boards, like cork boards with
Yes.
things cut out on a magazine and you thumbtack them on there and you go, hey, I want that someday. Well, I always wanted a Dodge Viper and I started looking at those when I was in college and that was in 96, 98 and I was broke and there's no way I was waiting tables, $100,000 car. And so I always visualize like, hey, maybe I'll buy one of those used one day. That's a pretty cool looking car. I can't afford that right now. I was realistic. And so through the course of business, I sold my first company. It was 2007. And I went and I paid cash for a brand new Dodge Viper. So I still have that
Mm,
car today. It's like very, sentimental type purchase.
mm.
But there's also a money mindset lesson in here because you heard me, I paid cash for a brand new Dodge Viper, $100,000 car. That was one of the stupidest mistakes I've ever made because I grew up in the lower middle class mindset and even the middle class mindset of hearing the stuff from people that we see as authority figures, parents, people, their peers, they would say, if you can't afford to pay cash for it, you can't afford it. They would
Mm,
say stuff like that. And so,
mm,
or they would say like, nobody should finance their toys. Right. So I had that belief system around money that if
right.
I couldn't pay cash for it, I couldn't
Then I
afford it.
can't get
But
it.
I didn't
Right.
know about money. I mean, here I was, a
Hmm.
multimillionaire. I was age 34, and I had that weird old belief system. So I was really
Mm,
good at making money, but I still had some old belief systems. And now that I know about money and investing and understanding how to leverage things, it would have made so much more sense to just finance that Dodge Viper at whatever 4% back in their interest,
right.
invest the rest of that money into some gains to make 8 to 10% net. And so I'm getting 10 minus 4, which is 6% net on the same money. And I still would have owned the car. I still would have made the payments,
Right.
and I still would have made some money on top of the investment. So whenever I see this kind of stuff, especially in the automotive Facebook groups, Ferraris and Porsches, and somebody will come in and ask, hey, which credit unions are giving you the best rates? And there's always this people that are like, well, if you can't afford to pay cash for it, you can't afford it. And you go click on their profile, and they're always the broke people who
Yes.
saved for like 40 years of their life, breaking their back
Yes.
to go buy some fifth owner used Porsche. And so
Yes. Yes.
that mindset perpetuates every level. So it's just something to raise awareness of, like, yeah, I rewarded myself and I've bought many, many cars since then.
Yeah.
But there's a lesson in there. Like, I thought I was doing the right thing, and I thought I was being a big boy and writing a check for something. And
Right.
yeah, I could afford to do that, but it was stupid.
Well, and then you learn from there.
You learn.
And then
Yeah.
I was taught, if you can't buy it twice, then you shouldn't buy it.
Right.
Right.
So the twist, they don't tell you this, the context behind these phrases.
Hmm.
Yes, you can afford to pay cash for it, but that doesn't mean you should. See, like, there's a
Right.
difference there. And they don't finish the sentence. They go, if you can't afford it, you can't pay cash, you can't afford it. So,
Right.
that works fine when you're broke and you're buying $10,000 vehicles. Because if you're Bubba on the block and you go, hey, I wrote a check for $10,000 for my third hand used truck, you feel like you're kind of a baller.
Right.
But that doesn't work when you get into the six-figure vehicles. Like, that's kind of stupid. Like, you can do
Yes.
better with that money. You can invest that money in your company now and net 20% maybe. So, like, quit taking advice from people who haven't achieved what you want to achieve. That's the best of
Abs-
financial advice.
Absolutely. 1,000,000%. And so we're going to 2024, and I can't believe it. 2023 flew by.
Yeah.
What can we expect to see from you? Because you do a lot for a lot of people.
I'm on this journey now with purpose and trying to reach as many people as possible. So to me, I'm in a financial situation. Yeah, I'm very comfortable and I'd be able to do the things I want to do. But all the stuff that you see me doing now and the way you know me from social media is because of
Mm.
I was in a car accident in 2015. I was racing cars at the track and I had a near-death experience. I
Oh,
hit a
wow.
concrete wall at 130 miles per hour. And after that, I started to realize the value of time. And
Mm.
although I had very, helpfully impacted people in my proximity, my friends and my family, and helped a lot of people become successful, I realized that not enough people were getting the information that I had within me because of
Mm.
my own insecurities and my own fears of judgment and criticism. And I didn't like being on camera. I didn't like recorded voices. I didn't want to be the center stage of anything. I was very good at being the MVP in the background, putting my logo in front of me. Right.
Yeah.
And so after that incident, I started to realize that purpose needs to be above fear. And most of us live with fear before our purpose. Everybody has a purpose, but
Mm.
most of us have a bigger fear than our purpose.
Mm.
And so that made me shift. And I went through a 2-year cycle of realizing, like, I need to go do something to create more impact. And when most people hear impact or purpose, they immediately use the common answer of, like, well, it's my family. I'm here for my family. And I
Mm.
would argue that that's a really weak purpose because that's your duty. That's your responsibility. That's not your purpose is much, much bigger than you, much, much bigger than your family.
That's a
Because
great
the
point.
potential within all of us is, how do we reach more people to impact the best way we can. The best way I can serve this world is, I'm very excited about teaching people confidence and business.
Mm.
Those are the two things I
Mm.
always love in cars. The cars was my previous businesses.
Yeah.
I said, I'm going to take the same level of energy and the passion that I have for business and teaching people confidence and getting out of their own way and helping them build businesses. That's what I'm here for. Now, everybody listening's got a different purpose and a different way to impact the people on a global scale. but the fear is holding you back, that judgment, the self-doubt, that who would listen to me, like all that stuff. I had all that stuff. We all have that. You have that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what's big for me is like, how do I keep amplifying my message to reach more people? Because I'm not looking to make any significant changes in what I do. I'm just looking to amplify what I do.
You know what I really like about you too? You're because I think I said it earlier in the show. It's like, we have a lot of coaches and hype entrepreneurs that, like, they're screaming at you, they're screaming affirmations, they're yelling at you, all this stuff. And I think that's for a certain type of person who may need that, as you pointed out. But I like about you is, like, it's a very calm, clear confidence.
Hmm.
And that's needed as well.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That comes from just living the journey. I mean, the thing is, like, when you make all these fallacies and you over promote yourself and you make these big claims, and you go rent the Lamborghini and you take the picture with both doors open, you're mean mugging the camera and you do all that stuff. Like, imagine how thick your liar's handbook has to be to keep all the notes of the lies you told, and
Yeah.
how much stress that has to create on your life, and having to keep up with all these stories. And especially when we go to these different events and we speak and we meet people, and imagine trying to connect all the dots and making sure that you that's just nonsense, right?
Right.
It's just a whole lot easier to be yourself.
Yep.
One of the best compliments you'll ever receive is when people know you online and then they see you in person and they meet you in person. They go, you know what? You're exactly the same as I expected. You're exactly the same as the person online. That is the
Yeah.
biggest compliment you'll ever receive. And most people, unfortunately, can't lay claim to that because they have a different persona. They're making these big claims. They kind of get exposed or they get embarrassed and they kind of go in hiding, and they emerge 6 months later and are doing something else. Like, guys, just quit doing that stuff. Just be authentic. Like, be who you are, and understand that you may not be where you want to be, and that's okay, but admit where you're at. and
Yes.
and do what I do. I take people on a journey. I go, hey, here's where I'm at, and I'm not happy, I'm not comfortable being here, I want to be here.
Yeah.
And so this is the work that I'm going to have to do to get to that. So I'm going to show you day one, starting today. I'm going to move towards that, and I'm going to show you the bad side, the good side, and I'm going to fall down a lot, and I'm going to get there. And then when you get there, you're taking people on this journey for months, and they go, wow, I saw you progress, I saw you improve. Like, and the goal behind that is because they need to say, like, if you can do it, maybe I can do it. Like, I'm trying to instill hope. If I show them I can do it, I want them to believe that there's a potential that they could do the same thing. And
Absolutely.
if I can inspire someone to take that action and make some real change in their lives, and they get that result, that is the most fulfilling thing that you can ever achieve in your life.
I love that. Tony, I'm going to have to have you on again. I think you're great. Please let everyone know where they can find you.
Yeah, my website is 365driven.com, and that's also the name of my podcast if you're listening to a show already. So, I appreciate the opportunity. I enjoyed getting to connect with you too. So it's been a fun conversation.
Thank you. And yeah, like I said, we will absolutely have you back on. Please do follow him, find Tony, connect with him. He is amazing, really authentic, wonderful coach, and actually knows what he's talking about, which is a huge plus. Thank you, everyone, for listening and watching. Thank you, Tony, for taking the time being with us. And we will see you all again next week. Bye, everybody.